Well, this could be a little bit of a worry, guys, especially if you live on the coastal areas of far north Queensland. Because according to this article that was published on the 21st of December 2012 on the Sky News website, there is an area of Great Barrier Reef that is sitting on the edge of the continental shelf, and it is showing signs of being in early stages of collapse. Now, should that reef collapse into the basin, that will displace so much water, it will generate quite a large tsunami that could wipe out these coastal towns in far north Queensland. So the article goes on to say tsunami fears over seafloor collapse near Oz. Now, this is the area that we're talking about. And I actually live in far north Queensland, which is why I actually paid attention to this article. However, I do live on a mountain, so it would have to be a bloody big tsunami to get me where I'm actually located. Still, it is something that we need to pay attention to, especially with all of this tectonic movement that we are experiencing. So the article goes on to say a huge slab of seafloor near the Great Barrier Reef is in the early stages of collapse and could trigger a tsunami, researchers have warned. Marine geologists from Australia's James Cook University have been using advanced 3D mapping techniques on the deepest parts of the reef since 2007 and have discovered dozens of submarine canyons. On a recent trip, they found a 1 cubic kilometre slab of seafloor that remains of an ancient underwater landslide which is perched on the continental shelf. Geologist Robert Beeman said undersea landslides are well understood geological processes, but we didn't know there were any on the Barrier Reef. It is sitting on top of a submarine canyon cutting into the slopes, and it is in the preliminary stage of collapse. He added that it was unclear when the collapse would occur. Mr. Beeman said, "It is slowly giving way, although it remains stable under current conditions. But it is absolutely going to collapse. And when it does, it will fall 1 kilometre into the adjacent basin." Now, I've been snorkeling out on the Great Barrier Reef near the continental shelf and where it actually ends and then the basin begins. And seriously, it is like a huge abyss. You just go over the edge and it is just complete nothingness. It just falls away. So I could totally imagine a huge area of reef displacing so much water. I could see how that would generate quite a big tsunami and how that would devastate a lot of coastal areas, because basically when you live in Australia, you don't live in the centre because it's all hot and dry and deserty. Most of our towns are all around the outside on the coastal areas. So definitely it is a big concern when something like this may occur. So it goes on to say that this will generate a localised tsunami and that will affect the Queensland coastline, which is around 40 miles away. We're not trying to alarm people, but we need to know it is there and what could happen when it falls. So notice he's saying when it falls, not if it falls. And see, this is the problem with these government agencies. They really don't have any foresight when they plan, cities and towns, because really they don't care to start with. They're only in power for 3 years or so. So seriously, any of the decisions they make, they don't have any repercussions when it, turns to crap. So people, it's really up to your own discernment and your own common sense to evaluate whether the area you live in is safe. And it ends that the discovery published was in the Natural Hazards Journal and was made by geologists on board the research vessel, the Southern Surveyor. Anyway, look, I just thought that was really interesting, and seriously, if you do live on the Queensland coastline, then it is something that you do need to pay attention to. And I think everyone should really have an escape route planned. Just because something doesn't happen in the last 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, doesn't mean that it's not going to ever happen. And unfortunately, the human species has a very short memory. And this is the reason that I think we experience so much destruction when these cataclysmic events occur. It's because that we completely forget about the last time it occurs, and for some reason we think that everything is stable and nothing ever changes, and that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Anyway, guys, I will post the link to the article under the video, and as always, peace out.